The Baltimore Ravens have moved themselves to 6-5 after a 5-game winning streak, being over 500 for the first time all season. But a compromised Lamar Jackson may limit what they can do going down the stretch. We discuss next. Hey, what's happening? Welcome back to The Bald Perspective. Do me a favor on the way in the door. Go ahead and touch that like button. Hit subscribe if you've never subscribed, and hit that notification bell so you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk. This is going to be a 2-part video talking about what the Baltimore Ravens should do and why they should do it concerning one, Lamar Jackson. You see, let me get straight to it. I believe that the Baltimore Ravens should sit Lamar Jackson for Thursday's game. I said last week that the Baltimore Ravens should consider sitting Lamar Jackson versus the Jets. And what we saw from Lamar Jackson on Sunday was not incompetence. What we saw from Lamar Jackson on Sunday was not just a little rusty, off target. It was a compromised, because of health, Lamar Jackson. Let's understand something. Lamar Jackson, when healthy, is one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the entire league. And in most games, number 1 in the whole league. But right now, he's not healthy. And if I had to guess a percentage, it's hard to guess a percentage on health, but I'm going to say he's probably between 60 and 65%. When we watched Lamar Jackson yesterday, and after being sacked 5 times last week against the Cleveland Browns, what you see is a Lamar Jackson who barely can get himself out of harm's way. That's why the Baltimore Ravens should give him 13 days from today to the time they play the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I believe is their next game after Thursdays. They should give him 13 days to get treatment, to recover, in order to get in what could be some of the best shape he's been in over a month. Yes, he made it out of yesterday's game healthy, but the context is he's not healthy. And with the raggediness of this offensive line, this below average offensive line, the same one that Eric DeCosta said would be better this year than last year, that offensive line, he's only on track to get more injured. And the reason why you would sit him for Thursday, because if he was that limited, could barely outrun defenders, yeah, he made a couple of plays, he made a couple of jukes. But some of that stuff is going to be unnecessary when he's already injured. I'm sure he's still battling with the hamstring. We understand he had some knee soreness, and his most latest injury was an ankle. And when you can escape rushers, you're a sitting duck. We saw him yesterday when he's getting up off the ground gingerly and slowly. And so what I'm simply saying is, this is not even about his long-term health, which that is super important as well. I'm simply talking about Tyler Huntley may be the best option for the Ravens going into Thursday's game than a 60 to 65% Lamar Jackson, because at least Huntley could get himself out of harm's way. It makes no sense to take a guy who's less than optimal, way below his average, and keep trotting him out there with this offensive line to get injured. See, if the offensive line was better, if it was stellar, if we had some potential Pro Bowlers along that front, I say, okay, we can block something up and Lamar Jackson can just throw short passes, screen passes, things of that nature. But that's not what we're seeing. It is very clear that he still has to use his legs on a lot of plays to get himself out of harm's way, to extend plays because wide receivers aren't shaking loose, things of that nature. And so I'm simply saying, We have to look at it for what it is. I heard somebody say earlier that, hey, a less than 100% Lamar Jackson is still better than Tyler Huntley. Well, if we were saying he was 80%, 90%, sure, that statement would be true. But he's clearly not that high on the health scale. He's just not. And I think it's an injustice. It's more malpractice not to say, okay, bam, let's go into Thursday's game with a scheme, right? What's going to be the scheme? Run the ball, because it's the only way to protect Lamar Jackson. But because the offensive line does not do a great job run blocking, that's also compromised. In past years, when the offensive line couldn't do a great job run blocking, Lamar Jackson would just start up and generate the run game, and then the running backs would follow. Well, he can't do that right now. I've often said that less Lamar Jackson could lead to more wins, but not like this. When I said less Lamar Jackson could lead to more wins, I'm talking about less Lamar Jackson having to run when healthy, less Lamar Jackson having to take extra hits, less Lamar Jackson always having to extend the play and move the pocket to get the rolls off when healthy. But this offensive line is not going to allow him to get better. He's not going to heal when he's having to take unnecessary hits because nobody can hold up. Go look at the blocking grades from yesterday for this offensive line. And that's even with a Jet team who had traded away Quentin Williams, who was probably their best defensive line performer. When you watch that game yesterday and the Cleveland game, you saw the Browns and the Jets just say, you know what, we're going to line up our front four because we believe our four could beat your five. And that's exactly what happened repeatedly. Their four defenders in the trenches consistently defeated our five offensive linemen, plus tight end blocking, plus Patrick Ricard. And it's just a flat out travesty. This is the kind of year that the Baltimore Ravens possibly could go on a deep playoff run. Now, I know you may be laughing at that statement, deep playoff run, but as I'm looking at how things are shaping up around the league, specifically the AFC, it would be possible. When you look at what the Super Bowl contenders were coming into the season, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs out of the playoffs, Ravens just got into the playoff spot, and the Buffalo Bills just gave up 8 sacks. And they have questions over there what they're doing because they can't stop anybody on defense. And so I said coming into this season, this will be the season that you have to throw history out of the window. And it has shaped up that way. Colts lead their division over the Texans, last year's winner. The Patriots lead their division over the Buffalo Bills, who was last year's winner. Denver leads their division, and the Chargers are in second place over last year's winner, the Chiefs. And the Baltimore Ravens are the only team in position to repeat. And so this is the kind of season that we could get in and make some noise over some teams that may be ahead of their time, or a team who just took advantage of the historic division winner, that being the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Texans in, the most recent history, having a down year. Now, anything can happen over the last 6 or 7 games of this season. But right now, things could be optimal for the Baltimore Ravens, but it will not happen. Nothing can happen if Lamar Jackson can't get healthy. He won't be 100% this season, but the Baltimore Ravens need him around 80%. Because this 60 to 65 puts us on track to lose 4 games going down the stretch. The Baltimore Ravens will lose 1 game to the Bengals, 1 game to the Steelers, 1 game to the Packers, and 1 game to the Patriots with this level of Lamar Jackson. And so that's why I petitioned that the Baltimore Ravens should consider sitting him, not putting extra hits on his body, putting him in the batting cage, right? making him available for Thursday, but moving forward with Tyler Huntley. So if they have to go with Lamar Jackson at some point, they could pull him off the bench. I know that's not what you do to superstars, but if we have any hope of doing anything going down the stretch, it's going to be with an 80+% Lamar Jackson as it pertains to health. So this is part one. I will bring up the rear of this conversation in a part two. It'll drop probably somewhere between 1, 2, or 3 o'clock. I'm your guy, Belanger. Again, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, and I'm out.